So, good morning. Hope everybody's okay. Yeah, so last video went down interestingly, I think you could say. A lot of you enjoyed it. And there was obviously the Antis band got on board as well and decided to tear it to shreds. But, you know, the sport wouldn't really be without it, I suppose. They've all got their, different opinions and they are welcome to them. But we all know, shooters that is, stalker shooters, fishermen, etc., how important shooting, hunting and fishing actually is for the countryside, for our diets, for our livelihoods, and also to keep the countryside running healthily, because frankly without it there would be a lot of issues with vermin and a lot of issues with things that people don't understand. Anyway, I thought I would just explain stalking as a start a little bit better, because a lot of you don't seem to understand the benefits of it, and you just see it as a killing, as a murder, as a lot of you have been saying. Well, firstly, sadly, whether you think it's murder or not, it's not, because murder can only be committed one human against another, so therefore not the case. Anyway, petty things aside, I'd like to just explain to you the benefits the stalking has across the countryside, and for us especially down here, is trees, and I will show you throughout the course of the day why trees are at risk, especially from roe deer and especially from young males across all species, but why we control them to protect the trees. So currently walking through a very recent plantation of eucalyptus trees, which we've planted here for forestry, for timber, but most importantly for firewood, because everybody likes to have a log burner in their house or what have you. Firewood is becoming more and more important, and eucalyptus is a fantastic, fast-growing, fast-harvest tree, which you can normally start to thin out after about 15 years. So you can see here, deer they like eating eucalyptus quite a lot, but that's not really the main damage. The main damage is when you get things. There you are, see, that's been pushed down by a buck. This time of year, bucks have velvet on their antlers, and most of you know what velvet is, but for those that don't, velvet is a protective, blood-filled, capillary-filled layer which goes over the antler when it grows and provides it with all the nutrients. And then after the antler is finished growing, that'll drop off. So it's really important, that for the deer they get that stripped off. And they'll do that by using the trees, especially young saplings, which unfortunately don't cope very well when put under a lot of force. As you can see, they're falling down all over the place. In fact, the deer's gone along here and gone dosh, and knocked over 4 in a row. So it's important, especially the young bucks, that they are maintained. When I say maintained, I mean controlled. And therefore they're not coming over and a great number of them spraying their antlers on the trees. What I like to do, and what everybody, typically a good deer stalker, likes to do, is to leave a strong, big, typically older male in the area, and he'll fray a little bit, and there will be damage, but he'll keep all the young ones out, and he'll actually be a benefit to the trees in the long run, because he'll protect them by just fraying himself, if that makes sense. So the others won't come in, and he'll keep the others away from causing a great deal of damage. But yeah, this is trees. Protect the trees. Trees. Now, there are now 2 million, or thereabouts, deer in the UK, which is more than there have been in over 1,000 years. So anyone that says deer are going to go extinct, there's not enough of them, and it's not the case. There are lots of them, and frankly, managing them is not just for our good, or for the trees' good and for the crops' good and agriculture. It's for their own good, because too many of them, so humans are sort of starting to find with the coronavirus. There's a lot of us, and viruses have started to breed within us. It's the same thing with deer. Illnesses will start to crop up. Things like TB. Liver fluke, all these sort of things that deer typically get will just spread throughout the population, and before long you have a very unhealthy population of deer. So it's important to take out the ones that look slightly sick, slightly old, or not quite tip top, and you leave the healthy ones, like I said with the buck, they are actually a benefit to the place. So you leave them and things will all be fine. Another thing that most people probably see day to day is deer on the roads. Now, I'm in a tree plantation, which also happens to be right next to a dual carriageway. Deer and articulated lorries don't go very well, but normally the Arctic would probably come off better. When you turn around and say, well, there's a red stag at the end of the road, and there's a family car full of 5 people, it's never going to be pretty. And that's another thing why there are 74,000 deer-related car accidents every year. And without deer management, without people managing the deer all over the country, they would only be probably double, triple, 10 times what they are, because 100,000 people go stalking every year. So that means, you hard to think a lot of them are successful, so they take out quite a few deer. Car collisions, I don't know if you've ever come across a collision with a deer, especially a larger one, such as a fallow or a red. They're not very pretty sights. There's normally not a lot left of the deer, and there's also a great deal of damage to the car. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, in this case, there's actually damage to people inside as well. Road traffic collisions on a dual carriageway, high speed, the deer can't cope with the speed of the car, and you normally can't cope with what the deer's going to do. It's very unpredictable. Again, another plantation here. As you can see, we've got a strip of eucalyptus down the middle, and then mixed broadleaf either side. Compete against one another and just help boost each other on a bit. But again, they're short, relatively short tree guards, so the deer can easily access them if they need to. Dog to scale. But yeah, so again, we've got to manage it. So it's all very important. And around here, it's particularly roe deer that I'm managing. Actually, it's we get the odd red and the odd fallow, but to be honest with you, I tend to leave them alone because they don't do any damage. There's not enough of them to. You often get the odd herd building, but again, it is the roe that really hammer it around here, especially the young trees. And we've planted 40,000 in the last 3 years, so that's a lot of trees, and potentially a lot of damage that could be done. Which is not just money. It's also it's rewilding areas. It's really banging on about conservation, and that's what it's all about. And part of that is rewilding areas. Whether it be wildflower meadows, which we build, whether it be forestry, and trees when they're sort of that sort of size doesn't really matter, because the deer aren't going to really bother those trees. It's when they're these kind of sizes around here that is when it's crucial, and they need to be managed the best. And to be honest with you, the roe, it's all about, obviously the doe needs to be managed accordingly. Typically a cull would be 2/3 female to male ratio when you take them out, because the females are obviously the next production line of deer, so you need to manage them accordingly. But it's not just the shooting. This is the main aspect of stalking. It's massively important for other aspects of the countryside. Shooting deer, their venison is worth over £170 million a year in the economy. A lot of these people, that is a very important part of their income, and it provides jobs. Provides a lot of jobs, actually. Over 100,000 people take part in stalking every year. So if you are out there knocking stalking, please consider not only the words you're using, which a lot of the time are very unnecessary, but stalking is so important. Look again, right beside the road here. These deer could pop over onto the road and cause risk to life. Agriculture, forestry, livestock, etc. Deer are very damaging when not managed correctly. So before you do knock it, do a bit of research and understand how important stalking and management is to the countryside, and maybe you'll learn something. But if you already know, then I'm preaching to the converted. But I thought I'd just put out a video to explain that stalking isn't just shooting for no reason, not shooting just for sport. For me, I enjoy hunting, I enjoy stalking, of course. I wouldn't do it if I didn't. There's also a lot of other reasons why I do it, as I've explained. And not to mention, it tastes very good as well. Venison is, in my view, one of the best meats you can eat. Healthy, lived a brilliant life, and very sustainable as well. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and like and subscribe if you want to see some more shooting, hunting video related in the future. Also, I got a nice shout out from the Field Sports channel, so if you don't already subscribe to them, go give them a look and a like and a subscribe. They are probably the biggest in Europe. I don't think they can compete with the Americans slightly just yet, but they're getting there, and hoping to do some work with them in the future. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Look forward to seeing you next time.